Philosophy of underground music, as understood around the world, is music pure, uncensored, uncorrupted and free from pressures of record labels and commercial music trends. It is a movement where creative expression is valued over commercial success, and the musician creates for the love of art and his own esteemed ideology. Underground is anti-mainstream, where bands make music for a higher artistic expression rather than the media or desires of multiple record sales. Underground music is about independence and creative pursuits outside the prevalent social norms, a counterculture which confronts the predictable, divisive and manipulated mainstream music. Underground is believed to be hidden and uncontaminated from the corrosive effects of popular culture and mainstream media. Underground music does not aim to cater to crowds of thousands, but is contended with its limited faction of enthusiastic nonconformists and thrives in its own experimental aura of true, real and sincere self-expression.
The music made by underground bands is more or less the music they want to do. It's not for somebody.
It's basically amateur music, you can say. It's amateur, it's not professional, you can say. It's got more to do with the hobby. Your hobby, and just you're doing it for the sake of fun. And professional is something, you know, when you really have to take it professionally. You have to go mainstream, you have to go commercial, you have to look at the people what they want and not just, you know, what you want. So it's underground basically is what you want to play, and mainstream is basically what people want. That's the difference. It's a very less crowd. It's been, you know, it has increased a lot during the past 5 years, but it's more like, you know, just limited to one circle. And we see a lot of people, same people on every concert. Like each and every concert, you see all the same people coming in.
And the main purpose of making music is like you get mental satisfaction. That's it.
No, it's more
you want to. It's more like an achievement. Like you wanted to do something and you actually did it.
But until now, it's more of a hobby at the moment. It's because it's not. You can't make it commercial. So we're studying. We're working. You know, some of us are working. Some of us are studying. So it's basically a hobby right now. We're just doing it on the side.
Exploring the Lahore underground rock music scene, which has been around for over a decade now, it is only recently that the culture has been generating interest and popularity due to the emerging trend of rock festivals. A culture which was once underground is now becoming mainstream. What is commonly understood as underground rock music in Lahore are rock festivals arranged with the help of a solid sponsor, where bands who term themselves as underground play to a gathering of even as large as 2,000.
This is the third rock festival, and basically it started from year 1995 when a couple of boys from Lahore, they organized a peace festival. Sadly, after 95 it never took place, and Gul's Entertainment has been solely responsible for organizing the event for the past 3 years now, and we expect the audience of around about 1 million, but somewhat between the lines of 1,500, 2,000 people. The acceptance of underground will not mature because the media and especially the multinationals, they think of rock as a band music or sort of thing, because it's quite open, it's quite bold, and the lyrics are quite offensive at times. We have a very hard time getting sponsors together, and if we do have sponsors, it's very hard to convince them that this kind of music is good for you. And I think the image of rock, it's been overblown for the past 20 years. People think it's very much Western, and they affiliate sex, drugs and rock and roll. Well, there's only rock and roll here, no sex and no drugs.
In Pakistan, in Lahore at least, there's no real underground scene. There was an underground scene like 5 years ago when bands like Seth and Incision were starting out. And there was a band called War, but now there's no underground scene in my eyes, in our eyes, and we're totally sick of it. But there's no underground scene. I mean, people play concerts in front of 3,000 people and say that they're underground bands, and you could offer one of these so-called underground bands to come on TV, and they would. And the thing is that as a band, Sikor, we don't call ourselves underground because we're not underground. Okay, we're not underground, and we're not commercial. We're not motivated by money. And we have so many influences that it's amazing. I'm influenced by everything from Satyricon to Napalm Death, to Black Sabbath, to Pantera, to everything. Everybody has their own influences. A lot of bands here, they don't really like each other, and a lot of them are in competition, but on top of it, they're all friends with each other, but all of them really hate each other, to be honest. But with us at least, we're at least friends with all the other bands, and we regularly play gigs with all of them.
Most of these underground bands have heavy inspirations from the global rock scene, with some bands in particular being a common influence. Bands in the Lahore underground are criticized for a lack of originality and fabricating a pseudo-culture which has no relevance to the society they inhabit. They are labelled as mere followers of Western music ideology. Many of these bands prefer doing covers instead of creating music of their own.
Originality is another factor. A lot of the bands here prefer to sing in English because they believe it's a more better means of expressing yourself, throughout the world. Because we usually don't look at Pakistan as our market to sell. But unfortunately, because we are not allowed to sing in English over here, because you won't ever get a sponsor if you sing in English. People listen to you, do covers, people listen to you, and then at the same time you do your own numbers and develop a following.
Gradually
you basically
develop a taste
build on it. The initial influences or initial inspirations, the music that we've listened to, that was in English. So it's like a 360-degree turn for us, that you are on a certain track, you're listening to English songs, your inspirations and your gods are like
compositions
are different. So the feel is different, the music is different, the lyrics is completely different. So it's a frame of mind that we have to change. We have to shift to Urdu. You have to you have to give up certain things, certain musical technicalities you have to give up, but at the same time it's good. You have to market it that way.
Okay, bands of influence. All of us have different influences. I mean,
all of us. Okay.
Yeah.
He is totally into he's totally into the 70s music. I'm into 70s. I've been like a thrasher all my life. I've been listening to metal all my life. Then I got into progressive fusion and Adnan.
Everything, basically. But we all agree on Floyd and the 70s. That's something that we all have in common.
Plus an attitude as well. They sing about Margaret Thatcher. Obviously, that's just a reference point. It's just this.
Can't pick up one thing from all of
It's actually inspiration. It's the thought process. It's the principles. They use Margaret Thatcher as it's a symbolic thing. It's a symbolic thing. They are trying to say something through her, right? So what we do over here in Pakistan, we have the same point of view, same ideas, and it's like a non-conformist attitude, and that's what we follow.
'97 was when we released. In fact, I think we were the first underground rock bands in Pakistan that actually released the first 6-song album EP, and then Coven followed after that, and and we had to do it. We had to sell it on our own. We had to market the album on our own because nobody was going to pick up an English album. But all 6 numbers were all original numbers of ours.
All over the world, underground bands reflect strong socio-political aspects in their music. The Lahore Underground clearly lacks political motivation and themes of social concern.
Yes, I think underground bands can bring about a social change. If you look about 15 years back, bands like Megadeth,
Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, the list goes on and on. They influence the further generations to come to, sort of make their own music, make their own changes, and sort of vent their views out through music itself. So, but it also depends how you take the music. I mean, if you look at black metal bands and stuff like that, people would say that the message they're trying to get across is negative. It depends how you look at the music and how deeply you take the meaning of the music itself. It's all about your perception. Regard to what critics say, there is a lot of message. There is a lot of message in metal music. If you listen to music from Sepultura, even 6 Feet Under, it has a lot to do with corrupt dictatorship and corrupt rule. There is relevant issues. You have to listen deeply to the music. It's loud, but there are issues entrenched within the music itself.
As elsewhere, bands in the Lahore underground are also accused of instigating young people towards drugs. However, musicians term these as baseless allegations and stereotyped associations. Whether these bands are responsible for the promotion of drug culture is debatable and a matter which cannot be determined.
First of all, we don't do drugs. We're not a part of this. But as in Lahore, at least, the junkie culture, drug culture is extremely rampant, very, very strong. And everybody's doing it, and you can't deny it. It's true, and it's very out in the open. At concerts, it's everywhere. You can't deny it, and you can't really lie about it. You can't say it doesn't happen because it does. And about rock bands promoting it, not here. In Pakistan, I mean, mostly bands are playing covers, and they don't promote it. I mean, themselves are doing it. You can't deny that. But in their music, at least, they don't send, I don't think that they send messages like that in their music. They do it themselves, and maybe people do it because they want to be cool, the guitarist of, that band or this band. But nobody openly says, yeah, we do drugs, and, you should do drugs like us. It happens. Everybody's into it, but, you don't really talk about it like that. No.
When you are doping, what happens is that you get on a high, and probably you can make really good music, really interesting music, really experimental music. Lekin then it is a weakness in a sense that you need something to create something. The way it goes with me is that I do not need something to create something. I just need a moment. I just need to get into that moment, and I just need to explore and discover that moment, and that's enough for me. That's my dope. I do not need anything else. I do not need the कोकेन या चर्च वगैरह. बस मेरे लिए मोमेंट ही बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है.
Do you dope?
The thing is, I don't think any of us does that. Basically, as a musician, as a guitarist, I'd say I've seen people who are doing dopes. They can't practice. They just do dope all night and they would sleep. To be a good musician, you don't have to be a doper or anything. You have to practice a lot. You can't just get up and start playing the guitar. You have to practice nights and nights and nights. So I don't think I know there have been a lot of people, a lot of famous guitarists who've been doing dope and, you know, and drugs and playing music, but I just can't see, if you want to master your instrument, you can't just, you know, do dope and drugs and do this at the same time.
That question about dope, I recall a phrase or a statement that I don't know who said it. If 90%, if dope wasn't around or drugs weren't around, 90% of the music wouldn't be around that you're listening to right now.
I don't believe in this.
The bigoted social-cultural norms insist on classifying underground rock music as immoral and offensive. Society still tends to shun it, with only a limited group of young supporters who associate themselves to the culture. Due to the religious and cultural taboos, the local underground music territory is mostly occupied by boys, be it the crowd who attend these rock festivals or the bands themselves. These bands have no female members. For the urban educated entertainment-starved youth, rock festivals are a probability to break free from the monotony of life. Whether they understand the music or not is a separate issue.
The thing that probably turns people off even right now about us, कि वो अम्मी अब्बू जो बैठे होते हैं सबके वो उठ के चले जाते हैं, because कि we music loud and we distortions हैं music के अंदर. I mean the guitars, effects and distortion and whatever, and they walk away. So you got to take a stand somewhere. You got to start from somewhere, and then you got to progress. It's like acting like the Pied Piper. You're gonna have to take the children by the hands, and you're gonna have to lead them to what you think is right. Now, if you call that destroying a generation, then I'm probably responsible for that, but I'd love to be responsible for that.
Okay, the difference between underground bands in Lahore and the rest of the world, that's a big question. I mean, the major difference is the skin color, I guess, that's all.
That's all.
Yeah, that's all. Because they have a society that supports all that, and we have a society that would rather look down on this, you know. That's the only difference. If we had the same opportunities as those people, I guess we would excel just like them, that's all. Yeah, that's about it, yeah.
I don't think so. They have underground scene, you know.
Well, they do. Los Angeles has a very good underground band. I mean, scene.
The main problem is the resources for underground bands. Like, for instance, the hardware that the underground bands use, even the commercial bands, I mean, it's pretty expensive, and most of it is not available in Pakistan. So we don't have a market for that hardware, and even if we do, then it's really expensive.
The growing popularity of the music promoted by these underground bands is evident by examples of bands which have signed up with record labels and have come up on the mainstream commercial scene. Two separate bands from the Lahore underground, Entity and Paradigm, merged as one band, EP, in the year 2002, creating a huge fan following. With the release of their album, EP can be viewed as an underground band now transiting to the mainstream scenario.
We're basically working on just whatever comes in mind, that kind of a basis, you know, like you sit there, you're in a certain mood, and you want to make a certain composition, right? And at the moment, the kind of album we're molding into basically revolves, obviously there is always a theme around an album. So the theme around this album right now is basically introduction or a certain form of revolution, because it starts from the simple basic step, and it goes up to a little more complex form of thinking or whatever. What we're trying to introduce, you know, give people a taste of everything that could be possible. So it's not something that goes around like, you know, I'm happy, so this whole album is happy, or I'm sad, this whole album is sad. There are a lot of topics, there are a lot of issues. It's just, moreover, if you were talk in sort of a nutshell and say, okay, what is the theme of the band, what's the philosophy of a band, then I'd say it's just a simple revolution, where you have to start from a basic step and you have to go up. So yeah, I mean, we are slightly commercial in the first few songs, but I hope people even like the taste of what we try to introduce later on. You can see a lot of bands who bring up political issues. That's not our main aim. That's not our main aim. We just don't think about politics, or we just don't think about, okay, social issues. So it's more like as what the time's requirement is, or what our needs are at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to go according to that, rather than just go like political and all that. Revolutionary, yes, it could be called revolutionary because we're trying to form we're trying to introduce a new form of thinking or something like that. What we might think is like our thinking, we would like people to know about it. Because like I said before, I mean, bands are like a lot of societies, a lot of cultures, you know, residing together.
Some believe that the underground is a source that feeds the mainstream. Being successful does not refer to selling out. However, materialism and money-making pursuits are strictly forbidden in the underground culture. Most of the bands in the Lahore underground aspire to sign up with a record label and become a part of the mainstream music scene. Underground music is what generates from the grassroots. It is for those who dare to dream, explore, question and experiment, who do not submit to conformity, who remain uninfluenced and challenge the conventional notions of the nauseating mainstream music with its glossy dolda idols. The question raised is, can the Lahore underground music scene be truly termed as underground? Does it fit in to the implicit conceptions of the underculture?